Hello everyone, good afternoon and welcome to Agile 101 with Humble Associates, myself and Arif.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us. That's right, TK. We're back again with another episode.
We are, and today we're talking about something very important, which is conflict. And,
Conflict.
we're hoping that you will enjoy the show. It's one of the special ones for us. It's not that we're constantly in conflict, but we've got a question for us, for you, wonderful people. First of all, where you're hailing from, where you're coming from, and what are the benefits of conflict? That's an interesting one, isn't it,
Yes.
Arif? And I know that there's a bit of a delay between us and the stream, so we can start answering and then we can start commenting on people's answers. So, Arif, what are the benefits of conflict?
Well, I think regular listeners or viewers, I should say, to our show
Might know.
will care to remember perhaps that we talked about team dysfunctions a few weeks ago,
Yes.
if you remember. And one of the things we discussed when it came to team dysfunctions was the idea of avoiding conflict, wasn't it? That was one
Oh,
of the
yeah, I remember. As a dysfunction,
that
right?
was one
Yeah.
of as a dysfunction, right? And so that I think has a nice connection to what we're talking about here, which is if your team is in a kind of situation where difficult conversations are not being had and they're being avoided, then there's a question mark about effectiveness and your capability as a team in getting to the right answers that work for all of you. Because if people are not willing to share what's not working, what they're not happy with, then how do you ever improve? That's probably something we need to be talking about maybe today or thinking about. What do you
It's a
think,
very
TK?
good point, Arif. And I think in this case, I would say that conflict can be really beneficial because disagreement brings change, and
Yeah.
change is inevitable and necessary to work. But we're keen to hear your opinion. Hopefully, you'll be able to share with us, and we'll be able to comment quite soon. But today we'll be talking about how to make conflict productive and how to make conflict work well for you. So we wanted
Yes.
to talk about what team conflict actually is. How do you know that you have a team conflict and not a team disagreement or not a team fight? What are the hallmarks of conflict? What do you think, Arif?
Yeah. Well, no, it's a good. I think when we're in a environment where we're doing quite a lot of complex work, we've talked about this before. Agile ways of working tend to thrive in complex environments where problems are quite gnarly, difficult to solve, and
Yeah.
require a lot of collaboration. Then this is a space where there's a lot of problem solving that needs to happen, and so everyone, all of us, is natural for us humans to approach problems in different ways. And so we might have challenges where team members believe there's a particular way of solving a problem that might be better than another way of solving a problem. And that can be the basis for conflict to start happening because it's a case, well, my solution is the right one, or I believe that to be correct. I've got the experience. I've done this before. Why don't you listen to me? You don't know anything. I know more than you. And so we can get into that kind of sphere. I don't know. What's your experience
Well,
of it, TK?
it's not in terms of experience, but maybe when I want to define what conflict is that it gets more personal than just a difference of opinion, right? Two
Mm.
people are getting into a situation where, it's not that they don't like each other, it's that it gets into, we're no longer talking about issues, we're talking about people. And this is
Yeah.
where, we can have an unproductive conflict.
Yeah.
So, both conflicts of opinion and conflicts of people are conflicts, but a team conflict, it's okay to have a difference of opinion, but when it gets to be about people, it may be problematic. So, and it's going to
Mm.
be especially problematic when we consider one thing, Arif, which is agility. So,
Mm.
I think with agility, the team conflict is even more challenging than with a classical way of work. Do you have an idea why?
Well, I think maybe partly what we've said before.
Hmm?
I'm guessing in terms of the interdependencies we have with each other in a team setting where we are reliant on each other to achieve a goal or to achieve an outcome. If you're kind of working in a very functional manner, then perhaps those challenges don't appear as much because you are only responsible for what's in your sphere of influence, in your control. And because you're an expert in it, it's easy to just carry on doing what you need to do without having to perhaps get involved in anything else. I don't know. That's just a thought.
It's a very good point, Arif. I think there's something that's there even more, which is like in agility, we do work in self-sustaining and self-managing, self-organizing teams. So
Yes.
there is no daddy or mommy to come in and solve the conflicts for us. We are self-organizing to do great work, but sometimes we can make mistakes in self-organizing. So have you seen these mistakes, Arif? And do you know what happens when a self-organizing team goes into conflict? Is there a story to tell?
There, I mean, I've got experiences, yeah, where we've got team members who go off on missions of their own because they feel they know how to solve something. And when they don't involve the rest of the team, it creates problems later down the line. And so, definitely being I can think of situations like that where someone's gone and thought, oh well, because I know about this and no one else does, I'm going to go and fix it or solve it in a way I think it should be solved. And then later down the line, someone discovers what's happened. And then there's some conflict because the rest of the team. So why didn't you inform us? Because now what you've done is you made it harder for us to evolve the solution into something else, or it's harder for us to now fix what we need to fix because you did X, Y, and Z.
Oh,
so
yeah.
definitely been in those type of situations. Yeah.
One thing I've noticed myself is I've been helping a team. I've been, dare I say, leading a bunch of teams, but I've tried my best to help them be self-organized. And I was actually working. So we were a dispersed team, or these were dispersed teams, located in various cities around various countries. And I could travel only as much as I could. And I've always been upfront with the teams saying, look, you can say what you want to say in your rooms between yourselves because, I won't be able to see you. So it's your responsibility to find out how you can best work with each other. And what happened is there was a trio of people sitting in the same room in one building, and two of them started to have a conflict. And personally, it got really personal. And I said to both of them separately, saying, well, is this productive for you? Is this productive for the team, right? If so,
exactly.
My request is that you try resolve it. I'll give you some tools that you can use. I'll give you some resources, as we will give you these resources today. But as a leader, I would like you to think about how you can either make this conflict about the issues, not about people, or resolve it. And I think it worked quite well.
It's a bit like parenting kids. you want them to focus on, okay, what's the actual issue? Let's talk about it. Let's resolve that and stop fighting, isn't it? It's funny.
That's a very good point, Arif. And go ahead.
So I was just looking through the comments.
Oh yes,
and just checking in what our viewers think. Ben has mentioned that conflict is essential for us to progress and evolve. Even the Barbie movie has conflict in it. Well, there you go.
Really?
So,
yes,
I haven't
seen it. You should see it.
I haven't seen it properly. No, I've seen bits, but my wife's watched it. I haven't had a chance to watch it properly. So there you go. So conflict is essential for human growth. That's Ben's thoughts. If any of you lovely viewers want to add any of your thoughts and comments around team conflict, your experiences of it, whether it's a good or a bad thing, please add your thoughts in the comments. And obviously, if you have a question, put that there too. We'll try and answer it.
So, Arif, it's something that you've said was really great, which is because you said that the conflict management strategy I used is the strategy of a parent. And you're quite right, unfortunately, because I think that as adults, we need to have different relationships with each other, not necessarily the same as we had when we were young and still developing. So that's one strategy. Do you know any others that we can explore? We have one in front, but maybe there's some others that are worth a mention.
Well, I believe we have a method we're going to be talking about today. Is that the one you're
Well,
alluding
there's
to,
the
or
one, but
something different?
let's talk about others beyond that. So, for instance, many people think that a
Yes.
good conflict resolution method is violence. We can just go out and beat each other.
Yeah, yeah, or worse. As sadly, we may be
In some
seeing
parts
it
of the world, right? Yeah.
in some parts of yeah. But yes, and that never, or does it ever really result in
A
a
resolution, right?
satisfactory resolution? No, it doesn't. So that you're right. That's the one extreme. Um, I suppose there are others like mediation
Mm-hmm.
as a mechanism. So, in business terms, you have think or well, before you even get to mediation, legal in a legal setting, you might go and sue someone for wrongfully violating some right of yours. So that's a mechanism for solving conflict, isn't it? Going to
But there's
using
something
recourse of
interesting
the
about
law.
these mechanisms, right? Both
Yeah.
mediation and the legal process of a judge or jury,
Yes.
because
Yes.
it's like a third party
Third
resolving the
party.
conflict for
Yes.
you.
Exactly. Yes. You're putting it in someone else's hands. It's like giving up. Saying I can't deal with it. I'm unable to
Yeah,
solve
yeah.
this. So I'm going to go to an alternative means to solve this. It's a bit. I mean, you get situations here where money matters, especially. You
Mm.
find that businesses, individuals, tend to then get into things like the bailiffs and
Yeah.
courts, sending out orders and things like that, and marking you down as bankrupt and all of that kind of stuff, right? So these are all other mechanisms for
So I would
solving
classify it as a corporate
conflict.
violence.
Corporate violence,
Because
yes.
it's if you the only people that are actually happy about litigation are the solicitors or
The
lawyers, depending on
lawyers,
where
yeah.
you're from, right? Because
Yeah.
this is their work, so they will always try to press you. But it's all there is very little examples where it is better to litigate rather than just to go and negotiate an agreement.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
usually much better than going through the whole legal process, which you just. But it's a separate thing. But if I were to classify the two types of conflict management strategies, it's third-party management strategies. So you hire or someone comes in and bosses you around to solve the conflict, and self solving strategies, which is you want to solve it within your team. And today we'll talk about one of these, which is the non-violent communication. So, Arif,
Right.
when have you first learned about NVC?
Not that long ago. I have heard of it before, but I haven't really delved into it in a great deal of excuse me. I haven't really spent a lot of time looking into it in a lot of detail, but I know you've been looking into it. So I'm very interested to see what you're going to be sharing with us and obviously contributing to the conversation. But it's a popular mechanism, isn't it? But it's all about being an adult. That's my understanding of it. Is being adult and having an adult approach to dealing with situations and problems.
And
Ultimately,
I think you're quite right, because an adult mindset, if you look at Eric Burns, like transactional analysis, is where you're
yes,
really skilled in being able to resolve situations that are in front of you. But also, Marshall B. Rosenberg's nonviolent communication, also known as NVC, actually, if you read the book, which I highly recommend, this one, or maybe the previous edition, what you will see is he starts from children and bullying, right? So it's like when you have a bully, what's the language you use to speak to them? And this
yes,
is where it starts from. So in a situation when there's a conflict,
yeah,
how do you resolve it? And I use this tool
mm,
quite a lot. I wish I've used it myself more than I'm helping my clients use it. Because as always, it's great to know thing, and it's another thing to apply it. But I try my best. And today we're going to walk through the steps of nonviolent communication. The important thing to note is it's not easy. There will be a
mm,
simple process, But if you think about, I don't know, playing tennis, it sounds simple. You just, wave a finger around. But actually, there is a lot of skill and complexity in it. So let's go through the
Mm.
journey of the nonviolent communication, starting with the first step, observation. So an
Yes.
observation is just you acknowledging a fact. So an observation is when you see or experience something with your eyes or your senses, and you
Senses. Yeah.
express it with no judgment, diagnosis,
Right.
opinion, etc. So, Arif, can you give us some examples of how that might look like?
Yeah, I hear that. I hear a lot of anger in your voice.
Hmm.
Could be something that I observe. What do you think, TK? Would that be an
Well, I
example?
think yes. I think this is quite an important one. Or I
Okay.
can
I
I can
see
see
you
that you're
frowning.
you're raising your voice, right? Or I can see that throughout the course of last week you've criticized my ideas that many times, more than I've seen you criticize others. Or I can see this and that. Right? Just make an observation that you have experienced yourself with other senses. This is quite critical because it establishes a basis for your, and it's a mechanism for giving feedback, but it establishes the whole basis for the conversation. Now, there's a huge problem we as people get into by starting with an interpretation, right?
Yeah.
So I can say, Arif, I can see you're confused.
Hmm.
Um, but you can't see that. It's your
No.
internal feeling, right? So I can see that you've got your eyebrows up, or you're breathing heavily, or that you're like looking for a document. So Arif, I can see that you're looking around. Is there anything you're looking for, right? So that's
Yeah.
that's a different type of communication. I think it's quite better than trying to make assumptions, isn't it?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. That's right. And the steps that we're going through. I mean, well, by way of context,
Mhm.
TK, are these typically how you would start off a conversation or start off trying to communicate with someone who you're in conflict with? Is that the approach here?
Well, I do recommend using. So this is the first step of the NVC method.
Hmm.
And I do recommend using it. And it's if you actually are able to have a conversation with someone, if you prior to that agree that, "Hey, can we talk about something?" Because I have seen that throughout last week, every day you've really criticized my designs, and I would
Yeah.
like to talk about that.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, absolutely. But the next step is crucial. And
Okay.
it's a difficult one because it's all about feelings. So we tend to have an understanding what feelings are, but essentially we are expressing our own internal state when it comes to
Right.
feelings. So examples what the feelings are is you're feeling confident, you're feeling endangered, grateful, calm, joyful. But when your when your needs are not met, you may feel
Yeah.
annoyed, angry, sad. You might feel pain. You might feel vulnerable. So you're talking about your internal state, and that's quite important because it's difficult to negate your internal state, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, I mean, this is probably difficult for some people to go straight in and talk about
Mm.
how they are actually feeling at this moment in time as a result of something that's occurred, right? So, how do we help people through that? What can we? Is anything any tips, suggestion? How do we help them feel make it feel okay to share their current feelings in the current state?
I like your question, Arif, and it's a good challenge. So you're not in a
Difficult one to
situation
answer.
when you've got psychological safety. You're in a
Right.
situation which is a bit hostile, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
my advice is the following. Um, this is the best way of solving this situation. And if you actually want to talk to the other person in a language that can resolve things, this is the best way. You
Yeah.
can use other types of language and you can share other types of things, but it won't be effective as sharing your feelings. Now,
Mm.
this is quite interesting, and I've had it backfire on me. So,
Okay.
so I remember there was someone that was quite hostile to me. I mean,
Yeah.
we haven't got into any kind of violence, but clearly didn't like me. He didn't like my work. He thought that I was like out to get him, which I wasn't. I was just like, maybe he felt that I was getting into his turf. And I said, "Look, Mr. X, I've seen you doing that, and I am a bit scared that this may really influence, the success of what we're doing and our relationship in the company. And,
Yeah.
I feel quite sad that I have to deal with that." And what I had is this person literally telling me, "I don't care you that you feel this way."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is the worst.
That's
I'm not
a
saying the worst thing. Is
tough
probably
one.
that's a tough one, right? But it really happened to me, and I can still remember when I was at the time. I was actually in Tooting by a mailbox as I was having this conversation, but really stuck with me.
Tooting is in
Yeah,
South London for those of
it
you
is
who
tough.
don't know where
So
that is.
sorry that
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not
We've got
really that much
we've
contextual.
got
Yes, from
viewers
all
from
over the world, right?
Bucharest, all over the world. They're probably wondering who was Tooting. So there you
Yes,
go.
yes, it's a great place you should visit. But what I wanted to say, Arif, is I clearly remember that. So if there was someone, if you said what I said, Arif,
Yes.
and someone said what you have heard from me, so what I've been given, um, what would you think after hearing
Well,
that?
I mean, you'd shut down, wouldn't you? You'd not want to continue sharing anything with that person. I think. I mean, I would really struggle to then want to communicate further with that individual. I mean, I'd be feeling really unsafe to be able to say, "Look, Mister So and So, that makes me feel extremely X, Y, or Z, and or whatever it is." I think you may be risking. You feel like you're risking more by then revealing that. I
And
think
this is why
I'm
this
just
technique
that's
is
a gut
difficult, but
reaction.
you've
Yeah, it's
just used
hard.
it,
Yeah,
right? In
yeah,
response to that, you've actually said
yeah,
how it makes you feel. So see, you're
yeah,
still
yeah, yeah,
in this language of feelings,
yeah.
which is
Ah, you got
important,
me.
right? No. And also through that, I've gained some knowledge. So I if someone is so, let's say, psychologically violent towards you that they don't even
Yes.
acknowledge that they care about how you feel, it changes your perspective. Maybe this
Yeah.
isn't a technique that you can use successfully with them. But if there's a chance of managing the conflict, a person would probably acknowledge that they would understand that they can't really say much because it's you feeling that, right? If you're feeling scared or something, or
I
vulnerable,
think
it's you feeling that. Go ahead, Arif.
no, just I think it's important to acknowledge. I think also, in addition, is that there are power dynamics as well, right? So if you're in a junior position and it's your manager is behaving like this, they have greater power over you already. So for you to then start off this conversation, you need the fortitude, the strength to be able to do that. And I think probably you need to find allies or people who can support you, hold you while you're doing something like this, because to do this on your own, it's not easy. That's
Simple
what I
but not
think.
easy, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely. So
yeah. So,
I'll
and you
go to the
risk,
next
there
point. Go
is a
ahead, Arif.
risk. But go on. Yeah, no, I'm just saying, it's just you're opening up yourself to more risk potentially. But go on,
But
carry.
that's
Let's
a
go
good
through the
point,
model.
right? But on the other hand, you're already in a situation that's hard to get out of.
True,
So you have two
true,
options:
true.
confront
Yeah,
or try to resolve.
yeah, exactly,
So,
exactly.
if you want to go the route of the confrontation, this webinar is not necessarily about that. I would recommend Sang Tzu's Way of War or The Art of War. It's a separate topic that many people read, and we can talk about the hostile behaviors that you can have. I don't think it's effective most of the time, and we can see around the world what it leads to. If you like it, it's your game. If you don't, stay with us because we'll show you a technique how to deal with that. So the next thing is expressing your need. So you've talked about how you feel. Now it's time to talk about what you need, right? So in the case of, like, look, mister, if you're criticizing me and really being hostile towards me, makes me feel that. And if I get even silence from you in terms of an acknowledgement that's you understand what I've said, that's the only acknowledgement I need, I can express a need that I have, right? So I, for instance, can say, I need some respect from you, or I need you to value the work we do, or I need to have a sense of meaning in what we do, or I need you to step back and let me do my job so I can also help you succeed. Right? So I'm expressing a need. And if, by the way, if you get the book by Marshall P. Rosenberg, he has plenty of examples. What can be the need? And there's lists of words that you can use. So yeah, you're expressing a need from someone, which is a good thing, isn't it? Right? Because again, it's your own internal need. You're not judging anything. You're just expressing what you feel internally. I think it can be quite valuable, don't you think so?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just looking on our chat, and there's a question
Oh
come
yes, go
in.
ahead, Arif. Yes, because I never can
Do you
see
want
the
to
chat.
answer the question now, or do you want to finish the model and
Go
then
ahead
we?
with the question. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So your Gita's asking, what is our advice for small teams where none of the where none of the anonymity is possible? I think what she means is, if you're in a small team, everyone knows everyone. You can't be anonymous. So, she's asking, what advice do we have for that?
But what?
Do you want to
Okay,
go
so
with that?
again, anonymity
Conflict.
it's a
Yes.
good thing, right? Because so what? If I were to create anonymity somehow, I would
Yes.
use some ways of feedback so someone can. But you know what? If you use anonymity, you're admitting that you don't have the psychological safety, which, if you come back to one of our previous shows, is a
Yes.
basic condition for team success. So do tackle
Yes.
the root cause, right?
And I think there's also something in there, and that there's a trust issue
Yes,
if you are needing
absolutely.
anonymity to then solve problems. And what we're talking about is confronting problems head on using this kind of technique to actually resolve them. Right?
Well, I would possibly use a different language. We're hugging the problems with love, yes,
Hugging. Okay. Yes.
rather
Hugging.
than confronting
Sorry.
them with
Yeah. Yeah.
a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
M1
Yeah.
Garand or
No. No. No.
MP40,
We're not.
right?
No. We're not. No. No. No weapons involved.
No
Yes.
weapons involved.
Yes.
So
Please.
I would use a language of like, okay, let's hug the problem and work on it together with compassion and express our needs, as I said. So in this case, look, I need some respect from you because without it, it will be difficult for me to work effectively with you, right? And that's the
Yes.
need I've expressed. So that's the
Okay.
next part, the step of the process, which is the third. And there's the fourth, the final step, which is also
I understand.
difficult for people, similarly to the second step, which is the feelings, which is, I have a request for you.
Ah. Right.
Ah,
Okay.
that's an interesting one, isn't it, Arif?
Yes. So I guess at this point now we want to try and move forward to get out of the conflict by asking things of the other person in order to move the conflict forward, right? Or move out of conflict stage.
So this
That's
is
what
this
that's
is
what,
what I can see many people having problems with.
yeah,
In a way
yeah,
that,
yeah.
and I've spoke about it at length on my Coach on the Rocks thingies, which is people tend to play this game of asking questions. Like there are no questions in these steps. The final step is, I want
What do you want?
something really practical, right?
Yeah.
How do you want the other person to behave? So, for instance, I would like to get some respect from you, and I don't want you to be late all the time, right? Because it makes me, I'm observing that makes me feel like it's not that I'm disrespected, I'm really annoyed at that happening. Um, what I need is to feel respected, that, there's a sense of community we have and getting to a common goal. And in fact, my request is that you're
Can you
not
be on
late, that
time?
you're on time, and if something happens, just let me know using WhatsApp and such, right? Or in this case of the example I gave, I would like to get some respect from you, and I would like you if to talk to me if you don't like something that I'm doing, instead of disrespecting me in front of other people or creating a hostile atmosphere. I'm sure we can resolve it. That's my request to you. It's not a question, it's a request. Difficult one for people, right?
Excellent.
Because people try not to make requests. We're raised in certain cultures in a certain way that requests are not cool. Why? Why? The hell? What do you think, Arif? Is that a difficult
No,
and an
that's
easy one for you?
No, it's a good and sorry, excuse me, an important stage in the process. And making requests is not easy of others, but I think it means if you're really serious about moving out of conflict and you want resolution on things, then you've got to really be minded to follow this kind of pattern, right? If you're not going to make requests, then you've got to ask yourself, are you really interested in coming out of conflict or not? It sounds easy to say that. I understand, but I can't hear you, Tika. I don't know why I
Because I'm
can't
not
hear you.
saying anything, I'm intently
Ah,
listening to you.
all right. Sorry, I saw lips moving, and I was wondering what's going on. It's just me. Yeah, anyway, so yes, I think it's important. Yes, if you want to move out of conflict, you've got to do the hard work as we've been talking about, and this is a good way of showcasing how we do that.
Yes, yes. And I think personally, if I can give any recommendation, the way I started learning this technique is I started learning two things. First, observation. The need is a difficult one. Sometimes it's difficult to get. So I just went with observation, feeling, and request. Sometimes it's enough to go with observation and request. These are easier. Then you get feelings in, which are difficult for many people. And then when you get better and better, you can actually do the full thing, which is observation. Then you go with feeling. Then you go with need. And finally, request. The golden 1, 2, 3, 4 steps of the model.
4 steps. That's
Four
right. And
steps.
there's plenty more in. I don't know if you got. Do you want to put the book back on the screen because the people were asking what the resource is? So if you're able to put
Yes,
that
of
back on the
course, I
screen,
most certainly
so
will.
people
It's
know. There we
Nonviolent
go. That's the book.
Communication by Marshall B. Rosenberg. If you search for
Yeah,
nonviolent communication on or NVC, you'll find plenty of resources, and we'll also be sending out the slides, so you can
exactly.
get
So
that. So you'll get
refer
them on
to it
email
there.
right after this meeting. So with that
Amazing.
said, Arif, I
Yes,
would like to thank everyone for joining us. It's been
of
a
course.
wonderful time. We're already out of time, but that's what happens. And yeah, we're going to have the next session soon about leadership and imposter syndrome. Is there anything that you would
Oh,
like to share around
an
the next session we'll have?
exciting topic: leadership and imposter syndrome. I'm sure our viewers will be excited to join us for that. I can't wait to be back
5th of
again for
December.
that. 5th of December. There you go. So thank you for joining us. We hope you found this valuable and useful, and we hope you are able to make use of this model in your own work. And let us know how you get on.
Yes, leave us a comment, leave us a like, and we'll see you on the 5th. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.